Welcome to the third video in our Quanum Nova series. In this one we're going to connect it up to a PC so that you can look at the telemetry information and also look how everything is set up. So here we have something called Mission Planner running on a PC. It's connected by US cable up to our model, and all we've done to do this is we've just installed the USB cable into that USB port at the bottom of the Quanum Nova Pro. And as you can see here on the screen, we have our location, we have our statuses, we have how we're moving, how many amps are being drawn. All the information that's coming down from the model we can actually look at here. Now as I move the model, you'll see the artificial horizon is moving on the screen there. So there we are, we've got all the information, and then we can also go in and look at how everything is configured too. By using the software in Mission Planner, we can also set up and see how everything is working. So if we turn on our radio, then as I move the controls, you can see them moving on the screen as well. So this is a really useful thing to be able to do, because not only does it allow you to see exactly what's going on with the model, it also lets you do all the setup as well. And it's worthwhile being able to connect like this to be able to do a couple of things. One is redefine the level. I can see on my model, one of the reasons that we might be having a little bit of that drifting is that it doesn't feel completely level. You can see that that isn't going back to level, but also I might benefit from doing things like a magnetometer calibration in my location on the Earth, because the magnetic north is slightly different depending on where you are on the planet and even what time of year it is. So by doing the magnetic compass calibration through this software, you can actually get a much better GPS performance. So let's quickly jump on to the netbook. Let me show you where to download this information from, and I'll show you a couple of the key places to go to have a look. The last thing I'll mention before we jump onto the computer is the ability to have this information on a screen is available through a wireless connection as well, and we'll look at that in our next video. So let me zoom onto the screen and I'll show you the kind of things that you can see when you are connected up onto your model. Just point of note here, we have no props on, and we haven't got the main battery connected for this either. It's all been driven from the USB port. So here we are on our trusty netbook, and for those of you that have been with the channel for a long time, you'll know this screen very well. This is all covered in our APM series, but here is the main screen, the flight data, where we can see exactly where we are on the planet. I'm not going to zoom in too much, but you can also see all the other airports. We can also see the current heading, which at the moment is to the left. If I turn the craft to the right, you'll see that red arrow sweep round. That's more or less northish. And you can also see at the moment that we're disarmed, the battery and everything else. Now the cool thing about the Quanum Nova is the control board that's underneath the APM is also monitoring the battery. It's also monitoring the current consumption as well, so you can see all of that through this screen. If we go into places like initial setup, you can also change how the model is configured as well. Now the cool thing is you can download Mission Planner really easily. If you just go to the address that we're showing here on the screen and install it, it'll install it onto a Windows PC. There are also different versions of Mission Planner around that you can install on Macs and Android as well, but for the moment we'll just concentrate on this one that runs on Windows. So again, here's the radio that we were looking at before, and this is the radio with all of the trims in the position that I used to try and get the model flying as level as possible. And I've not done a bad job eyeballing it, because all of these middle values should be about 1500, with each going from side to side. So if I push the stick on the radio control on the aileron to the left hand side, you can see the roll goes down to 1102. If I push it up, it goes all the way to 2003. So coming into this menu and then using it to refine all of the settings is really good. Now one of the reasons that my roll is at 1591 is because what I've been trying to do is trim out the fact that the craft actually doesn't feel like it's level. So a couple of things that are really handy to do whenever your model isn't performing really well, and all of these can be done through this mission planner interface. The first is this accelerometer calibration, so you can both calibrate what level feels like, click on that and that'll calibrate the level, and it will also calibrate the accelerometers as well. You can go through this and it'll ask you to put your model on each side, and that takes a little bit of time, and again, watch the APM videos in more detail for how you do that, but that's great to trim out any tendencies it has to drift in one direction. There's also the compass here that you can actually go through and you can calibrate that. That's a very handy thing to go through to make sure that you are pointing exactly north when you should be. If you find that when you're using a GPS function and it's rotating around, also flying like it's on the inside of a toilet bowl, that's usually an indication that the compass needs calibrating, because over time the magnetic north moves on the planet, and unfortunately without all that information being in the flight controller, that means that the GPS modes don't work quite as well. You can also see here in the flight modes how it's all set up. So here are the 6 flight modes that the switches on the flight controller are sending through. So as I move the switches on the radio control, you can actually see how the bits and pieces are moving around. So this is also a way, if you ever wanted to change what each flight mode did, you can actually choose it from here as well, and there's loads of different options to choose from, so you could program your own. So we're not going to go through all this in detail. What I just wanted to do was just let you know that this is something that you can do with your Quanum Nova Pro. You can connect it up to Mission Planner, and you can not only check that everything is working fine, but you can also do things like upload autonomous flights, and that's the very last thing I'll show you. The last thing I'll talk about is in Mission Planner, when you get really clever and your GPS is absolutely perfect and your compass is too, is you can add a predetermined flight. So what you can do is you can use this screen here to set up individual waypoints, load those waypoints into your flight controller, and then by clicking it into auto mode, it will then fly each of those points autonomously, and then usually the last command that you have in here is return to launch, and it will fly and land back where you set it off from. This is a really powerful thing, and something that with an APM is really fun to use. Allows you to do ride-alongs and to do things like aerial photography, because you can set things like a point of interest and even specify how far away the craft should be looking at that point of interest as it performs a perfect circle, and it will do all that autonomously. So have a look at the Quadcopter web pages. All the information about mission planning is in there. There's some fantastic resources, and we also have our own video series that you can go and have a look at if you want to know more about the fantastic little APM board that's at the heart of this Quanum Nova Pro. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel, and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.